Hola chicos, this is Miss Schaefer y hoy vamos a hablar de gramática de capítulo 2A. Vamos a hablar del verbo estar y esta información está en página 107 en sus libros de texto. After the last couple grammar concepts that were a little bit more complicated, I think that this one is going to be a nice break. The verb estar is very important, but it's not going to have quite as many details as some of the other recent grammar things did. So our big question in this is going to be, how do we use the verb estar? I want you to please go ahead and write that at the top of your notes for today, then leave a little bit of room where we can answer that question as we go. The verb estar means to be. And we're going to talk about that. There are two ways actually to say to be, and we're going to talk about when we use estar. But the big thing that I want you to know about estar is that it is irregular. The verbs that we have learned up to this point are all regular verbs, but estar is irregular, and we're going to talk about what that means. Okay, the regular verbs are called regular because they follow a regular pattern. Verbs that do not follow that pattern are called irregular verbs, and estar is one of those. Okay, now estar is going to use the same stem. So remember, your first step when you're going to conjugate is find the stem, and we do that by taking off the AR. So our stem is est. And that's actually going to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and put for us the est in all of the little parts of our table here. But the reason that estar is irregular is because some of the endings are irregular. So we're going to talk about that as we go. Remember, we're going to use this table here to help us remember what we're talking about. So we have the singular things on this side and the plural on this side. And then we have first person, second person, and third person, or the formal you. We're removing ourselves a little bit from that. So that's what we're going to be conjugating for. As we conjugate, I want you to be thinking about what subject pronoun goes with this. So in this box, we'll be saying yo estoy. This is the first reason that estar is irregular, because estoy isn't the usual way to conjugate this. Usually you just have the O, but here we have yo estoy. Okay, we have tú, that means you informally. Tú estás. This is the second reason that estar is informal, because we have accent marks actually on 3 of the verbs. Otherwise, the endings, with the exception of the yo form, are actually normal. They just have the accent marks. So we have yo estoy, tú estás, él, ella, or usted está. Sorry, that's the accent mark. That was a little sloppy. Nosotros estamos. That one's normal. Vosotros estáis, in Spain only. And then ellos, ellas, or ustedes están, and make sure you have that accent there. This is nosotros. This is vosotros. Okay, so once again, let's just look at this and review. Why is this verb irregular? Because I want this to really stick in your head as you're conjugating. So it's irregular because on our yo form we have this OY, and then these accent marks on the tú, él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes forms are not normal. That's not usually how we conjugate. If you didn't get that chart on the last page written down, sorry, I should have mentioned that. I want you to please make sure that you have that written down for yourself in your notes. Okay, on this slide we're going to talk a little bit about how we know when to use the verb estar. This little poem, I think, is the best way to remember, and it goes like this. How you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. So really we're talking about 2 things here, how we feel and then location. How you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. Go ahead and write that down on your notes, please. And then we'll talk about a couple more details, but that's the most basic and easy way to remember. Okay, the other way that you can remember is by using the word place, and each one of these stands for something. So P is position. Like I'm standing, I'm sitting, I'm next to the desk, I'm, on the subway bench. Your position. This kind of goes with where you are. Second is location. And this is the big thing that we're going to talk about this chapter. I'm next to my dog. The pen is under the table. The papers are on top of the books. The location of something, you're always going to use estar, where you are. The third one is action verbs. You can go ahead and fill that in, but we're going to learn that later. The verb estar, remember, is the verb to be, so it's like I am, you are. And we're going to use this like I am sitting, she is walking. But that comes in chapter 5, so don't worry about it yet. C is condition, like I'm sick, I'm hungry, I'm tired. And E is emotion. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm excited, and both of those go with how you feel. So like I said, how you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. So how do we use the verb estar? And I want you to write down a couple things here. The verb estar means to be. Okay, this is I am, you are, she is, etc. The second thing that you need to know is you need to know that it's irregular, and you should be able to draw your chart. And I want you to actually just go ahead and draw your chart on your notes right now. I don't have the room to do it, but I want you to go ahead and do that. So you have estoy, estás. You should be able to copy this from earlier on, but it's good for you to have it right here as you look at these notes and answer this question, and it's also good just for you to practice writing it down. So go ahead and fill out that chart. Don't forget your accent marks on the tú, él, ella, and ellos, ustedes forms. Then the last thing that I want you to go ahead and write down is when we use the verb estar. So how you feel, where you are, my bad. How you feel, I got ahead of myself there. Where you are. Always use the verb estar. And if you just want to go ahead and write down place too and what that means. So we've talked about what does estar mean, how do we conjugate it, and then how do we use it. And that's the big answer to how do we use the verb estar. Like always, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and write those down on your papers so that you can remember to ask in class or at help class. And gracias por escuchar. Adiós.